Today I want to take this conversation to a deeper level. We're not just going to critique evolution as a biological theory, we're going to expose it as a self-refuting worldview when taken to its logical end. This is heavily influenced by thinkers like Cornelius Van Til and J. Dyer, who both argue that non-Christian worldviews collapse because they borrow from the Christian worldview while denying it. And evolution, particularly in its naturalistic atheistic form, is a prime example of that. Van Til once said, "The unbeliever can count, but he cannot account for counting." Evolution claims that your brain, your reasoning faculties, came from unguided, purposeless chemical processes. But if that's the case, why trust the thoughts the brain produces? This is Alvin Plantinga's evolutionary argument against naturalism, and it's devastating. If your mind is the product of random mutations selected for survival, not truth, then any belief you have, including your belief in evolution, is undermined. J. Dyer often points this out in debates. You can't claim objective truth in a worldview where all thoughts are reduced to matter and motion. Chemicals don't produce truth, they react. So if evolution gave you your beliefs, they're not aimed at truth, they're aimed at fitness. That's not knowledge, that's propaganda of the flesh. Ask yourself, what is logic? It's immaterial, unchanging, and universal. The law of non-contradiction isn't made of atoms. You don't stumble across it in a forest. Yet without it, you can't reason about anything, including science and evolution. Van Til's point was this: atheists use logic, but their worldview can't ground it. Under evolution, everything changes. Everything is in flux. So how do you get unchanging laws in a universe ruled by chaos and chance? To frame it another way, you're stealing from the Christian worldview. You're using immaterial laws of logic, assuming a rational, ordered cosmos, while denying the very God who makes sense of those things. That's like sawing off the branch you're sitting on while bragging about the sharpness of your saw. Under evolution, morality is a trick your DNA plays on you. It's just a chemical strategy to keep the species alive. But if that's all it is, then you have no basis to say anything is truly right or wrong. Yet we all act like morality is real. We condemn evil, we admire selflessness, we hold people accountable. But if naturalistic evolution is true, then it's all just brain chemistry, no more meaningful than a can of soda fizzing. So again, the evolutionary worldview borrows from the Christian moral framework, human value, justice, and accountability. But the evolutionary worldview denies the God who gives those things any objective meaning. That's what Van Til meant by borrowed capital. You're living on a foundation you pretend doesn't exist. This is the transcendental argument. What must be true for anything to make sense? For logic, science, and morality to even be possible, you need a rational mind behind the universe, aka God. Humans made in his image, capable of reason, order and consistency in creation, and a moral standard beyond human opinion. Evolution and atheistic naturalism can't provide any of that. So every time someone argues for evolution, they're proving the need for the Christian God, because only in that framework do laws of logic, uniformity of nature, and moral accountability make sense. To put it bluntly, evolution as a worldview refutes itself. It destroys the reliability of reason. It can't account for logical abstract truth. It undermines morality, and it depends on a worldview, Christian theism, that it simultaneously rejects. This isn't about science versus religion. It's about the fact that science, reason, and morality don't even make sense without God. When you pull God out of the picture, the entire house of cards collapses. But here's the deeper question I want to leave you with. What kind of world are we living in if everything you feel, think, and believe is just a byproduct of blind forces? If love, reason, beauty, even your sense of self are just neural illusions shaped by survival pressure, then who are you really? A cosmic accident? A bundle of reactions with no enduring value or purpose? That's the silent despair hidden beneath evolutionary naturalism. And yet, people don't live like that. We grieve like our losses matter. We create art like beauty means something. We reason and argue like truth exists. These things don't come from chaos. They reflect the fingerprints of a personal, rational, moral creator. Evolution, when stripped of borrowed assumptions, leaves us in a void, but the gospel proclaims something far richer, that we're made in the image of God, that truth is real, that love and justice aren't illusions, and that our lives have eternal meaning. So the real conflict isn't science versus faith, it's meaning versus meaninglessness, and only one worldview can truly account for the things we can't live without. If this challenged your thinking, even if you disagree, I'd love to hear your thoughts below.